Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and it is time for the Week 1 Power Rankings for the 2021 NHL season. Stay tuned for that coming up next. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos like this, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Make sure to stay tuned every Friday night at 6 p.m. for the latest Power Rankings. And let's get into the Week 1 Power Rankings. Alright guys, so are you ready to see this week's Power Rankings? Let me know if you agree, disagree. Let me know your thoughts on the Power Rankings that I have for this week. So with that out of the way, let's take a look. There it is. There is your Power Rankings for Week 1 of the 2021 NHL season. Now, the last time we did a Power Rankings, it was almost 2 weeks ago, as I did not do one last Friday. I did it the previous Sunday before last Friday, so it's been 2 Sundays since our last Power Rankings. And now we are back, and we have a lot of changes, and we'll be looking at that right now. So, at number 31, different than last time, a little bit of a different circumstance. At number 31 is the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars are at number 31 because they have yet to play a game this season. They have had COVID issues. Their first game is tonight. So good news there for the Dallas Stars. It seems like they are on track to start their season today. So very exciting there for the Dallas Stars. Not really much to talk about though. At number 30, really starting at 31, at number 30 is the Chicago Blackhawks. The only reason they moved up a spot is because the Dallas Stars didn't play. So, congrats. The Blackhawks don't look great. They've already had to run into 3 goaltenders with Colin Delia, Kevin Lankinen, and Malcolm Subban. So, they've already had 3 goaltenders in 4 games, I think, so far this season. Yikes. Not a great start for the Chicago Blackhawks. They've gotten swept by both their series against the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. So, not a great start here for the Hawks, especially with guys like Kirby Dach and Jonathan Toews out of the lineup. It definitely hurts their group that much more. At number 29, moving down a lot in the power rankings. I'm very disappointed with their start to the season. At number 29 is the Anaheim Ducks. Now, maybe I'm a little bit harsh on them here, but I am not a fan of the way they have played. Now, to be fair, they played the Minnesota Wild, who they just played against the last 2 games. And before that, the Vegas Golden Knights. They have had a tough schedule to start the season. But that's no excuse. They have looked really flat in most of their games. And they did have a good second period, most recently Wednesday night, against the Minnesota Wild. But other than that, they have been pretty quiet. And they just have inconsistency. They come out of the gate really slow. Not a lot of scoring from the Ducks in the first period. Might as well just skip the first period at this point. Just a lot of issues. They don't have somebody that could really bring the puck into the zone. That's why Trevor Zegras is going to get called up at some point, especially with the way he's playing right now in the AHL with the San Diego Gulls in their preseason. I wouldn't be surprised if he is here before Valentine's. I just think the Ducks desperately need that offensive push, and Trevor Zegras can provide that for the Ducks. So that's why they're at number 29. At number 28 is the Detroit Red Wings. So the Detroit Red Wings not last. Congratulations. The Detroit Red Wings have shown some promise. Goaltending in between the pipes, major upgrade from Jimmy Howard. I hate to go against Jimmy Howard here. Great wily veteran in the NHL, but Thomas Greiss has been stealing the show in Detroit. He has been unbelievably good in between the pipes, and not to mention some of the guys, the young guys, the new captain Dylan Larkin, looking pretty solid. Bobby Ryan in the Philip Zadina line looking really solid. Doesn't really matter who's there, whether it's Vladislav Nemesnikov or Robbie Fabry down the middle. They seem to be doing really well. So a lot of excitement from that second line for the Detroit Red Wings, really adding a lot of spark to their offense. Anthony Mantha has come out of the gate kind of slow. That is one thing that I hope he does pick up his game a little bit. But other than that, the Detroit Red Wings, definitely at the bottom 5. That's respectable, but it's better, and we're seeing the improvement from last season already. At number 27 is the Arizona Coyotes. I'm not even going to give them the how because they don't deserve it. The Arizona Coyotes have been absolute crap to start the season. And I hate to say that to my Yotes fans out there. they have been awful. Now, to be fair, again, there's always caveats. They've been playing the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's a difficult team to play against, and that's going to be hard. But at the end of the day, it's not an excuse. You still have to find a way to win hockey games, and the Arizona Coyotes have not been able to do that. Darcy Kemper has not looked great in between the pipes. They're obviously not getting a ton of scoring, and their blue line just looks a little weak. So there are some issues with the Arizona Coyotes. Even in that West Division, right now, I do not have them making the postseason. They do not look good at all. At number 26, showing some promise, is the Los Angeles Kings. So the Los Angeles Kings are at number 26 in this week's Power Rankings. They look pretty solid. I mean, I believe they have their first win on the season last night thanks to a win over the Colorado Avalanche. A well-fought game. They had to persevere in that one. Jonathan Quick looked pretty solid. He's looked good through the first couple games of the season for the LA Kings and did that again last night. Beating the Colorado Avalanche, they were down 2-0 in the first period. They clawed their way back. They scored goals in the third period, and they were able to take the lead 3-2 late in the last 5 minutes, and they were able to get an empty netter, and they find a way to get a huge victory. And the Los Angeles Kings, Gabe Vilardi has 2 goals on the season. A lot of excitement right now out of the LA Kings. Moving on up to number 25 is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Wow. Not where I expected them to be right now. The Blue Jackets, now maybe because of the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation, there's a lot more going on in Columbus. As John Tortorella benched Dubois last night for the second and third period against Tampa. Now, if he's in the lineup, there may have been more of a game, but fortunately that was not the case. And a tough spot for the Blue Jackets. Tortorella not making things easier on Dubois or Jarmo Kekalainen, who has to trade this freaking guy. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, but there are definitely some things happening. Honestly, this Dubois situation has to end sometime soon because it's really hurting the Blue Jackets' success on and off the ice right now. At number 24, we have the San Jose Sharks. Now, the only reason I have them ahead of teams like the Blue Jackets and the Kings is they did get a quality win this past week over the St. Louis Blues. Now, it wasn't a shootout, but they played a very solid third period, caught the Blues sleeping a little bit, and they were able to beat Jordan Binnington and the Blues on the road. So we'll see what happens with the Sharks. I'm on the fence about them. I don't think they're one of the better teams in that West Division. I don't think they get in the postseason, but they're definitely proving more of an argument so far to start this season. So we'll see what happens. The goaltending is still shaky. Martin Jones, Devin Dubnyk, So we'll see what happens with the Sharks. Evander Kane taking a lot of penalties. He's got to stay out of the box. I know he's had a lot of stuff going on recently, but he's going to become a hindrance to this team if that keeps up. So the Sharks, we'll see what happens. But a decent start to the season. 24, not where they want to be in the standings, but we'll see what happens. At number 23 is the New York Rangers. So the Rangers really slipped in my power rankings. They were a top 15 team in my preseason power rankings, and they have fallen off. They had a tough loss against the New York Islanders, and more importantly, the dagger in their heart last week when Jack Hughes defeated the New York Rangers almost single-handedly, scoring 2 goals against the Rangers in MSG. And the Rangers, again, their win was against the New York Islanders, and again, that's why they're ahead of teams like the Sharks and the Blue Jackets and the Kings. But other than that, the Rangers have not shown that much. Capo Caco has gotten on the board. Igor Shesterkin has looked okay. The goaltending has been all right for the Rangers, and Alexis Lafreniere has yet to get on the board. So we'll see what happens. But the Rangers, the guys are coming out slow. Guys like Ryan Strome, Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin. It's a little bit slow for the New York Rangers. Hopefully they're able to pick that up as this week. And the next couple weeks moving forward. At number 22 is the other New York team. Nope, not the New York Islanders or the Buffalo Sabres. It's the New Jersey Devils. As the New Jersey Devils are at number 22. Now, they actually rose in my power rankings. They were a bottom 3 team, especially with the situation around their goaltending. Now, this may be an issue because now you lost Corey Crawford in the what is it called? During the training camp. Obviously, he decided to retire, and now Mackenzie Blackwood is on COVID protocol. So, depending on how long that lasts, that's a big blow for the Devils. And we saw that last night against the New York Islanders, where they really struggled, specifically in the third period, gave up 2 late power play goals, and that kind of sealed the deal for the Isles in their victory over the Devils. So, the Devils kept it close, but we're seeing the issues with this Devils team. The depth isn't there, and in goal, that's even more concerning for the New Jersey Devils. And number 21 is another New York area team. It's the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres fell in my power rankings this week. Only a couple of spots, but they did fall. The Buffalo Sabres kind of coming out of the gate slow. A couple losses to Washington. A loss, I think they beat Philly, which is a quality win. Again, that's why they're over teams like the Rangers, the Devils, the Sharks. But at the end of the day, they're still number 21 on the power rankings. Again, goaltending a little bit on the fence, giving up 6 goals. I think they gave up 10 goals in 2 games against Washington. And they kind of outdueled Carter Hart, but even then, I'm not a big fan of the Buffalo Sabres right now. I like Taylor Hall, Victor Olofsson, and Jack Eichel. Eric Stahl, hopefully he's not injured for too long. That would be a huge blow for the Sabres. But other than that, guys like Dylan Cousins kind of coming out slow. And the defense has not looked that great. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin has looked great. But other than that, it's a little bit slow even on the back end for the Buffalo Sabres. So we'll see what happens. But a little bit of a slow start for Buffalo. At number 20, huge drop in the power rankings. I had them as a top 5 team in my preseason power rankings. They are making me eat crow for this, and I'm going to punish them because they really are not doing well to start this season. They are struggling mightily. In the North Division, at number 20 is the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks have had plenty of issues to start this season. They did get that first victory of the season, and they were able to beat Montreal 2 nights ago. But since then, the Vancouver Canucks, I'm going to be making a video about this weekend. The Canucks have been awful, absolutely awful. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the combination of Pettersson not getting on the score sheet yet, the goaltending just having a huge downgrade from Jacob Markstrom, or the lack of, now because of injuries and stuff going on with the defense, the Canucks are in a heap of trouble, and I don't know how it's going to get fixed. Travis Green has his work cut out for him, I could tell you that, but the depth isn't there for the Canucks. Brandon Sutter scored a nice goal, but other than that, the Canucks were non-existent in the bottom 6 last night. The defense really struggling. A lot of young guys in the system. We saw that Chatfield guy already get hurt in his second NHL game. Ola Juolevi just getting much more pressure on him. Quinn Hughes only in his second season getting that much more pressure on him. So we'll see what happens, but goodness, it has been a heck of a start for the Canucks in the worst possible way. At number 19 is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, I actually rose them in my power rankings. I think you look at other teams in their division, the Rangers, the Devils, the Sabres, they're better than those teams, but I don't think I'm comfortable enough putting them in a tier with the Boston Bruins, the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers, or even the Carolina. Carolina's not in that division. I'm going to have to put that one in the jar, but I think there are a lot of opportunities for the Penguins to move up into that upper echelon with those top 3 teams, but they seem to be that bubble team, which is good enough for the playoffs at this point, because if you're the 4th seed behind the Islanders, Bruins, and Flyers, you're at number 4. You're in a playoff spot. But the question is, are they going to be able to compete with those teams and pick up those extra victories? Like we've seen the Devils. They've beaten the Boston Bruins once, so we'll see where the Penguins stand. Again, the goaltending situation not looking so great. Tristan Jarry with a rough start to the season, making Casey DeSmith maybe put on a little more pressure than he's ready for, but we'll see how he handles that over this week. They did beat Washington, but they also lost to Washington, so we'll see what happens with the Pittsburgh Penguins this week. At number 18 is the Florida Panthers. Now, the Florida Panthers have only played a pair of games against the Chicago Blackhawks, so it's hard to really decipher where they are. Truthfully, they played the worst team in the NHL. And one of those games, they actually had to go to overtime where they picked up a victory. They have picked up 10 goals, though, 9 in regulation over those 2 games against the Blackhawks. So they were taking care of business. But again, you had to go to overtime in that second game. They had obviously issues with the Dallas Stars, now the Carolina Hurricanes. So if you're playing Florida next week, be careful because your team might be on COVID protocol. That's just been the scenario for the Florida Panthers. Nothing to their fault. They just seem to be giving gifts maybe before they play their opponent. Maybe they gave a little, I don't know, spiced edible arrangements to the Dallas Stars before the season and the Carolina Hurricanes before their series. So I don't know. Maybe the Panthers have a little trick up their sleeve. I don't know. But all kidding aside, the Florida Panthers, we'll see what they do. I expect them to be playing a little bit more over the next couple weeks. It's good because it gives Coach Quenneville a little bit more time with the young guys just to kind of acclimate them to the league, get them used to playing with each other. I think it's a good thing for the Florida Panthers. They're going to be hungry this week, and we'll see. We're probably going to see a little bit more of the Panthers right now. At number 17 is the nation capital up north of the border. It is the Ottawa Senators. And the Ottawa Senators really are a pretty solid team right now. Now, I think we're starting to see them slip. We saw that last night against the Winnipeg Jets, but they're showing promise. And I think it's very exciting to see what the Ottawa Senators are going to be this year. I think they have a lot of promise. And, Matt Murray gets pulled in that game, and there's obviously some issues, but I think the overall blueprint, they are going to look better than they did last season. And how much of an upgrade really is that? Is that from a bottom 5 team to a bottom 10 team? Potentially that's all it is, but it's still improvement from the Ottawa Senators. Potentially even a bottom 15 team, maybe just on the cusp of playoffs. We've seen how that North Division is kind of wide open, and the Ottawa Senators are not exempt from that. They're at the bottom of that division, but honestly, the gap between them and teams like Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, even Toronto and Edmonton, there is still hope for this Ottawa Senators team to potentially make the playoffs, as crazy as that sounds. At number 16, we have the Nashville Predators, actually moving up in my power rankings. Now, they took care of business to start the season against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Looks solid there. But since then, they've been a little bit on the fence. I haven't watched a ton of Nashville, so that's my plan this weekend, is to focus a lot on the Nashville Predators. So we'll see how they look this week. I really didn't get to watch much of them, so it's quite fitting that they're at number 16, right in the middle of the NHL, because I really... Based off their record, they look okay, but I just haven't seen enough of the Preds this season. At number 15 is the Edmonton Oilers. And the Edmonton Oilers, they're a Jekyll and Hyde team, kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Edmonton Oilers can lose really badly to the Canucks, then beat the Canucks, and then struggle against another team, and then play really well against the Maple Leafs and find a way to get a grit win in Toronto. Like, you can't really figure out this Oilers team, and a lot of it has to do with goaltending, and that, I think, could be their kryptonite this season. Mikko Koskinen not looking great. Mike Smith already on the IR for a month, so we're probably going to see Stuart Skinner at some point, which is the young netminder from the 2015 or 2016 draft. So exciting to see Stuart Skinner potentially this week, especially with the way Mikko Koskinen is playing. They're kind of they're forcing their hand, and they're going to have to put Stuart Skinner in at some point. At number 14, we have the Boston Bruins. Now, some of you may be wondering, Boston at 14? That's a little bit low. Well, you look at how they've started the season, and they're right in the middle of things. But they're, again, another team that I've seen a lot of hockey from them. I saw their 2 games against the Devils, their game against the Islanders. Even the game last night against Philly a little bit. The problem with the Bruins I have is they finally got a goal during, without special teams. For the first 3 games of the season, they had not scored 5-on-5 yet. So they finally rectified that. But they still have some issues with their blue line. And actually, I want to shout out the Lauzon family. One of the Lauzon, someone in Jeremy Lauzon's family actually reached out to me. It is Lauzon. So Jeremy Lauzon, as well as Jakob Zaboril and Euro Valkainen on that left side, they are still very young. So like I said, I want to give a quick shout out to the Lauzon family. I do appreciate that. We're supporting him, even as a New York Islander. Not supporting the Bruins, but I am there for Jeremy Lauzon. Hopefully a good season for him. So quick shout out there. But besides the point, the Boston Bruins are still very young on that left side, and I think that is still a weakness to them. Now, I think you're going to need to rely on the guys like Brandon Carlo, like Charlie McAvoy, until those guys get some more experience under them. And they have a lot of changes up front. Honestly, I think Nick Ritchie actually had one of his better weeks with the Boston Bruins, even in his short stint so far with the Bees. So he's looked pretty solid. A lot of excitement here from the Boston Bruins. We'll see what happens. Again, they're another team like Nashville. I've seen them more than the Nashville Predators, but I still don't really know where they stand. They were able to have a close game against Philly, but then they lose to the New Jersey Devils. So it's one of those things right now. It's still so early in the season, but the Bruins, they could move up next week's power rankings pretty high, or they could really sink, depending on what happens this week. Let's take a look at number 13 is the Calgary Flames. So the Calgary Flames are at number 13. Now, the Calgary Flames are one of those teams. Hold on a sec. Oh, much better. At number 13 is the Calgary Flames. Now, the Flames situation, it's a little bit odd. Jacob Markstrom comes in. Chris Tanev comes in. And they just seem to be turning a corner. They look very solid. And again, another team I haven't seen a lot of this week, kind of like Nashville. I'm probably going to watch more Calgary this week. I just haven't seen them play a lot. Now, I did watch a little bit of the end of their game against Winnipeg where they lost in overtime, where Patrick Laine had an absolute snipe last week. But that's really it. So I can't really say too much on the Calgary Flames. I'll watch them more this weekend. But Nashville and Calgary are at the top of my list of teams to watch. At where are we at? Number 12. Number 12 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Maple Leafs, some of you may be saying that's a disappointing start to the season for the Leafs. I agree, but I think it's still so early. I think Leaf fans and the media in Toronto is just running away with this, going crazy, which I think is a little much. But this is a good hockey team, and I just think once a lot of change in the offseason, I think they really got hurt from no preseason. They're one of the teams that could have benefited from a preseason, kind of like the Colorado Avalanche, which we'll be talking about them too. But then we've seen teams like the Ottawa Senators where they had a lot of turnover, and they started the season off really well. So I guess it's just how it works. Freddie Anderson has not looked good in between the pipes. That is a concern for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And not to mention, they already got their new scapegoat this season, which is TJ Brody. So we'll see what happens. Now you got some injuries with Joe Thornton and Austin Matthews. Hopefully Thornton's not out too long. Austin Matthews, again, another injury. Hopefully he's not out too long. He's listed as day-to-day. So we'll see what happens. But yikes, not a great situation for the Maple Leafs. At number 11, moving up big time. And I had some good feelings about this team, and we're seeing that right now. And that is the freaking Minnesota Wild. Guys, they are really turning a corner right now. They are playing well. This is a really good start to the season for the Wild. They get a nice victory. Actually, I think did they win both games in Anaheim? I think they beat the Anaheim Ducks twice. They were able to find a way to beat the LA Kings. So I really like what we're seeing from the Wild right now. This is not a super monster team, but they're just playing really well, and the coaching staff is doing well. Kaprizov looks good. We saw Kaapo Kähkönen look a little bit weaker in the Anaheim Ducks game, but again, he still has a half a dozen games in his NHL repertoire, so as he gets more experience, we'll see that continue to develop, but very exciting. Cam Talbot has looked pretty solid, so not really much to say except good things for the Minnesota Wild so far, and kind of making my predictions that they would make the playoffs look pretty solid so far. At number 10, we are up to the top 10, and one of you did mention that I was wrong on this in the preseason rankings, and I kind of agree, so I did have to move them up. At number 10 is the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues really proved what they can do. Now, their game got a little bit watered down in their victory over the Colorado Avalanche because the Avalanche just lost to the Kings last night, but still, it's still a good spot for the Blues. Now, they did lose to the Sharks. That one hurts a little bit. But other than that, they've been pretty solid. And again, this is a team that I think there's just a lot of inconsistency. And that's something that concerns me about the Blues. Hopefully something they can rectify under Craig Berube. But Jordan Binnington has looked a little bit interesting, and it's just a weird spot right now. So the Blues, again, they could beat a team and play pretty well in the Avalanche, but then they could also lose against the Sharks in overtime because they had a bad third period. So the Blues, they may be a little bit higher up than they should be, but I like the spot at number 10. At number 9 is the Carolina Hurricanes. Speaking of another team I haven't watched a ton of, they did beat the Detroit Red Wings, but then they lost to the Detroit Red Wings. So the Carolina Hurricanes have since then have had some COVID protocol issues. Oh, geez. Excuse me for that. At number 9, the Hurricanes, again, like I said, so not a lot of hockey out of Carolina. Hopefully they get things going again. They've got a good blue line. They got good forwards that can score goals. Svechky's already got a goal or two. And we also got Peter Mrazek, who they're hoping they can ride on this season. So we'll see what happens there with the Hurricanes. At number 8, baby, is the Winnipeg Jets, another team that really rocketed up my rankings like the St. Louis Blues. I really like what I've seen from the Jets. They had to grit one out against the Calgary Flames. They've been just winning games, and they had a really nice, solid victory over the Ottawa Senators last night. Pretty impressive. I haven't watched a ton of the Winnipeg Jets. Another team I have to watch more this week. But I really like, from the small sample size I've seen from the Jets, you got Connor Hellebuyck once again, so I really like the odds that the Winnipeg Jets could be that third or fourth team in the North Division making the postseason this year. At number 7, dropping off 5 spots. They were at number 2 in my preseason rankings, and that is the Colorado Avalanche. They started off well. I think they did well in that series against the St. Louis Blues. Despite losing the first game, they won 8-0 the second one. They won their third game of the season, but they won their game against the Kings, and then they lost against the Kings later this week. So just a lack of focus at points, it seems like, from the Avalanche, taking too many penalties, losing momentum, kind of falling asleep. They got that 2-0 lead early in the first period, and they kind of fell asleep after that. So the Nathan McKinnon line looked great as usual with Gabriel Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen. We saw what's his name, Hunter Miska. He looked pretty solid in between the pipes in his NHL debut, so not too much there. Bowen Byram, of course, taking a penalty like 3 minutes into his first shift or whatever, but that's part of it. That's what happens when you play against a guy like Andrei Kopitar, a little bit different than those guys in the World Junior. So that's just a little learning experience for Bowen Byram. He looked really solid, though. He was going up on the play, not afraid, not holding back. I think that was really good. He played very well for the Avalanche. A really solid prospect. I'm excited to see what he does this season for the Colorado Avalanche. At number 6, baby, the Montreal Canadiens at number 6. They took care of business the last 2 games against the Vancouver Canucks in pretty convincing fashion. And they did lose that first game against the Canucks, which was disappointing. They play the Canucks again tonight. They smashed their heads in last night, so we'll see what happens. I do like the Canadiens so far this season. We're seeing everybody get goals. We're seeing Jesperi Kotkaniemi get some goals. We're seeing the goaltending do well between Jake Allen and Carey Price. We've seen Alex Romanov look pretty solid, so just a lot of excitement there in Montreal. Things are turning a corner. Tyler Toffoli absolutely torching his old team. A lot of excitement in Montreal right now. At number 5, in the top 5, is the New York Islanders, baby. At number 5 in my Week 1 power rankings. Now, some of you may say that's biased, but I disagree. They had a rough game against the New York Rangers. They played well against the Boston Bruins. They won their first game against the Rangers. They beat the Boston Bruins, like I said. They had to grit that one out. A 1-0 game, a classic Lou Lamoriello style game. And then you find a way to beat the New Jersey Devils. Take care of business. Scoring on the power play. Brock Nelson getting his face cut up from his visor and freaking scoring a goal right after. And the Islanders are just showing that grit that they have done for the last 2 seasons. We're seeing that continue under this era with Barry Trotz. Semyon Varlamov, 2 shutouts. He's looked really solid for the Islanders. Only given up 3 goals. 1 goal in his first 3 games. So Varley looking great. The Islanders are going to have to throw Ilya Sorokin back in. And hopefully he's been working on some things because his NHL debut against the Rangers was not pretty. So we'll see what happens. And once again, I think the Islanders benefit, which we'll be talking about the Caps in a second, but the Capital situation has gotten quite interesting with Ovechkin being out of the lineup for the next 4 games, which just so happens to coincide with the New York Islanders schedule, where the Islanders and the Caps will meet up, and that may affect next week's power rankings, because if the Islanders don't have to deal with Ovechkin, they can put more focus on the other guys like Oshie, Kuznetsov, and Backstrom. So we'll see what happens there, but this is going to be an interesting week for the New York Islanders once again. At number 4, Number 4 is those Washington Capitals, as the Caps have looked pretty solid through the first part of the season. They've taken care of business up in Buffalo. They found a way to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. But their schedule gets a little bit more difficult now. They have to play the New York Islanders this week. They're going to have to start playing teams like the Rangers and Boston. So we'll see what the Caps do. And they're going to have to do some of that without the great 8, Alexander Ovechkin. Obviously, with all this COVID stuff going on, he's on COVID protocol, whatever. I don't completely agree with it, but whatever. They're on the bench together and they're not wearing a mask. So them playing poker in a room together without a mask is not really any different. Really, it's not. I hate to break it to you guys, but whatever. That's besides the point. Number 4 is the Caps, and they have been one of the better teams. I really think losing Ovechkin is going to hurt them next week. They could maybe find a way to rise up from that, but they're playing the New York Islanders, who are one spot below them in the power ranking, just nipping at their heels, looking to get further up in the top 5, and the Capitals are up next on the schedule. This could be interesting. But the Caps have been scoring without Alexander Ovechkin. Well, he's been in the lineup, but they've been scoring from other than Alexander Ovechkin. So the Islanders are still going to have a tough schedule with the Caps. But it's going to be interesting to see how this works out without Ovechkin, how that changes the Caps and the way they approach this season. At number 3 is another East Division team. Look at that. 3 of your top 5 teams in my power rankings are from the East Division. The Islanders, the Caps, and the Philadelphia Flyers, baby, at number 3. The Philadelphia Flyers have had a nice start to their season. Taking care, they did lose their game against the Buffalo Sabres, but since then have looked solid. They found a way to beat Pittsburgh to start the season in their pair of games. Thank you very much. And they found a way to just take care of business. Now, I believe they lost. See, now I gotta check. Philadelphia Flyers. My bad, guys. I should have had this. I should have known this. Yeah, so they did end up losing to the Bruins. That is a tough loss, considering it was a pretty back and forth game. Looked like a low-scoring game. And that didn't end up being the case. So that's one concern for them. They did lose to the Bruins, who, again, you've got the Caps, the Flyers, the Islanders, and then the Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins right there. So it is the division of death, absolutely. And the Philadelphia Flyers are unfortunately victims of that last night. So we'll see what happens, but they still look pretty solid overall. At number 2, moving down in my power rankings, they were the number 1 team in my preseason power rankings. That is no longer the case. At number 2 is the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning have had a good start, despite not having Nikita Kucherov. Again, like the Florida Panthers, they've only played 2 games, and they were against, you guessed it, the Chicago Blackhawks. So we really don't know where they stand. Now, I actually have a caveat to that. They did play Columbus last night, but again, for 2/3 of that game, their top center in Pierre-Luc Dubois was not on the ice. He was warming up the bench because of John Tortorella. So there you go. So they played the Blue Jackets once, and they played the Blackhawks twice. So we don't really know where they stand. Again, like I said, the Blue Jackets are at 25, and the Blackhawks are at 30 in my power ranking. So the Lightning really haven't been tested all that much quite yet. I think that's going to change this week, but we'll see what happens there with the Lightning. But they're at number 2. That means at number 1. Number 1 in my my week 1 power rankings, guys. It's not only because of the jersey, but it definitely didn't hurt it. At number 1 is the Vegas Golden Knights. Guys, this team is legit. And I'm not just saying that because I'm saying that. You look at this team. You look at who's scoring goals. You have Shea Theodore slapping goals in from the point. Alex Pietrangelo scoring goals from the point. And then you have the new guys coming in and scoring goals. I mean, this is freaking amazing, guys. The Vegas Golden Knights are taking care of business. Robin Lehner, Marc-Andre Fleury, doesn't matter who's in between the pipes, they're going to score goals. I really like what we've seen so far from this team, and I think there's a lot of excitement out of Vegas. Is it fool's gold? I don't think so. I think you look at their schedule, they're not going to really have any competition until next month, which is crazy when they take on the Colorado Avalanche. I believe they play Anaheim again. They play LA, San Jose when they go on that road trip. So they have to play St. Louis this weekend. I think that's it. Other than that, it's going to be a pretty easy ride this week for the Vegas Golden Knights. They might be killing it by the time they get into Colorado. So we'll see what happens with that. Now remember, they play Colorado 4 times in a row. They play 2 home and 2 away within a week. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of bad blood between these teams who are projected to be the top 2 teams in that West Division. So guys, that is it for my week 1 power rankings for the 2021 NHL season. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you agree with my power rankings? Do you disagree with my power rankings? Who do you think should be number 1? Who do you think should be number 31? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, and want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Guys, we are so close to 1K subscribers. If you are not subscribed and you like what we're doing here, make sure to give that video a big subscribe in the big button down below me. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. is our weekly power ranking. So if you want to see more of these, make sure to stay tuned for that every Friday night at 6 p.m. Guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great week.